Take a walk through Chicopee, Massachusetts, and on most days you're likely to see one of the world's largest aircraft soaring gracefully above you. That plane is the C-5 Galaxy, the U.S. military's largest plane. 16 of these giants make their home at Westover Air Reserve Base, the nation's first and largest all-reserve base. Construction began on the airbase in the fall of 1939, just 6 weeks after the Nazis invaded Poland. The base took its name from a former Army private who had learned to fly and later helped found the Army Air Corps, Major General Oscar Westover. During World War II, Westover was a sending-off point for thousands of young men headed for combat in Europe. For many, it would be the last time their feet touched American soil. The base also served as home to both fighter and bomber training schools, and even had a POW camp in which some 523 German Luftwaffe pilots were held. When World War II ended, the Cold War began, and Westover was again a key player. In 1948, it became the U.S. headquarters for the Berlin Airlift and helped deliver countless tons of food, supplies, and fuel to starving Germans in the free sector of Berlin. Eighth Air Force of the Strategic Air Command based its B-52s here in 1955. The bombers sat loaded with nuclear weapons on Westover's runways, waiting for the call to strike the Soviets that thankfully never came. In 1962, a photo lab on Westover developed film from a U-2 reconnaissance aircraft showing Soviet ships delivering nuclear missiles to Cuba.
Offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated.
By the late 1960s, Westover's fleet of B-52s were heavily involved in the Vietnam War. But as the U.S. left Vietnam, Westover realigned, and in 1974 it shipped out its B-52s, brought in 2 smaller supply-oriented aircraft, sold 2,500 acres of land back to the city of Chicopee, and became the nation's first all-reserve base. Westover's ongoing mission of carrying troops and supplies around the globe got supercharged in 1987, when it traded its 2 small tenant planes for one enormous one. The C-5 Galaxy is the Air Force's largest plane. It stands 6 stories tall, is nearly as long as a football field, and can carry more than 250,000 pounds of freight in a cargo hold longer than the Wright brothers' first flight. The paint alone weighs 2,600 pounds, and each of the Galaxy's 4 massive turbofan engines can easily garage an SUV. The first test of Westover's new fleet was Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. In the first month alone, Westover mechanics worked on more than 700 aircraft. Both the mechanics and cooks were working around the clock. As many as 20 C-5s touched down every day, and by the end of October, more than 20,000 tons of cargo and more than 10,000 troops had passed through Westover, bound for the Persian Gulf. By the end of the Gulf War, Westover Air Reserve Base handled more than 3,600 aircraft, more than 120,000 tons of cargo, and in excess of 63,000 military passengers. During that time, Westover pilots logged an astonishing 100,000 hours of flight time. Early on September 12, 2001, a 439th Airlift Wing C-5 took off from Westover, bringing supplies from across the country to New York City. Within months, hundreds of Westover reservists were mobilized, defending the country at home in support of Operation Noble Eagle, and also abroad, helping to defeat the Taliban in Afghanistan. When the United States invaded Iraq in 2003, Westover's Airlift Control Element was the first unit of its kind into Baghdad International Airport, while Westover's medical specialists deployed to stage and evacuate wounded troops from the war zone, including freed POW Army Private Jessica Lynch at medical facilities in Germany. Even while tasked with the heavy responsibility of supporting post-9/11 airlift operations, Westover continued its tradition of supporting humanitarian missions. airlifting supplies to the victims of the tsunami in Southeast Asia, the earthquake in Pakistan, and here at home after Hurricane Katrina, where hundreds of refugees were evacuated in the C-5's massive cargo bay, a feat not seen since the Vietnam War. Westover's 3,600 employees, including 2,500 reservists under the 439th Airlift Wing, work tirelessly to provide rapid air mobility in support of our national interests. Whether the call is national security or humanitarian aid, the efforts of the 439th Airlift Wing ensure that Westover's proud legacy continues into the 21st century and beyond.